Colorado head coach Deion Sanders made the change that everyone's been asking for, but it may have not worked, and he actually won't confirm it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I'm Kevin Borba, host of the show, and I also cover all things college football over at Athlon Sports. Today, we're going to be talking about Coach Prime allegedly, possibly demoting Pat Shurmur. We're going to be talking about him protecting his players from the media and fans. And then we're going to talk about the Big 12 and how they got a pretty nice boost from the College Football Playoff Committee. But let's start off with the demotion that possibly did, but also may or may not have happened. The USA Today reported that Pat Shurmur was demoted and stripped of his play calling duties after the Utah game, which, if you guys don't remember, that game was probably the worst game of the Deion Sanders era. The Buffs lost 53-7. They went into halftime with a negative 17 yards, and they finished the game with 140 total yards, being outgained by 447 yards. And offensively, they had 12 first downs compared to Utah's 25. They went 3 of 16 on first down, and we're averaging 1 yard per rush. So, yeah, it was a disaster. So Brett Bartolone, who called plays for Deion Sanders at Jackson State when he demoted someone else at Jackson State, he took over against Arizona. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing, and I confidently can say I see why Deion Sanders didn't want to tell anyone, right? I think if Deion Sanders and Colorado beat Arizona, he probably would have been tooting the horn going, we changed play callers, guess what, we're back. But obviously, things didn't go very well, right? Colorado loses 52-17, and they've been outscored now 105-24 in their past two games. A little bit better offensively, 299 total yards. I mean, a lot of that came against the second string, third string walk-on groups. They saw 3 interceptions thrown. They ran the ball for 129 yards, 14 penalties for 110 yards, and a lot of those were lining up incorrectly, holding, a lot of things going wrong on the offense. So I admire Coach Prime for making the change, even though he won't confirm it, which he did say yesterday that how do we know if changes were made? He could have made changes and nobody would know, and everyone's casting stones at the wrong person, which confirms to me at least, like, he did make the change. The problem is it didn't work out. Now, there's 3 reasons why I think this didn't work out. I think, one, the offensive system, because here's the thing, and I need people to understand this. Because you change play callers doesn't mean you're changing the offense, right? So when Pat Shurmur took over for Sean Lewis in Deion's first year, Coach Prime's first year, they were still running that fast flash offense, the Buffs fast offense, whatever they called it. But it was Pat Shurmur calling the plays. It was Pat Shurmur's sort of mindset on how the offense should go. Right now, Brett Bartolone is calling the plays from Pat Shurmur's offense on how he thinks it should go. There's that. So part 1, the playbook's not that creative. It's not that exciting, right? I think a lot of people were mad about the swing passes, the bubble screens. I think a lot of the playbook and what the players know and what they can handle is just that. So there's the first reason I think there's an issue. Second reason, I mean, let's just be real. Colorado's quarterback play has been less than stellar this season. Caden Salter has been, I would say, a flop, a bust, if you will, right? He had good moments at Liberty in 2023, but was benched last year, came to Colorado, had some off the field sort of leadership issues that he wasn't living up to expectations, gets benched, comes back in, is inconsistent, right? So you've had inconsistent quarterback play. You put in Ryan Staub, who also struggled. And I mean, if your quarterback's not good, or if your quarterbacks are not playing well, no offense is going to look that good. It doesn't matter if you have Sean McVay calling the offense or me calling the offense, right? If the offense is unable to execute, whether that's lining up correctly, whether that's blocking assignments, whatever it is, if they're not able to execute, it does not matter. So the third and final thing of like why this is just going wrong is I think Deion Sanders realistically needs to make a change and bring in someone who's not within his inner circle and bring in someone who's not on the staff. But obviously you can't do that right now. So Colorado is going to limp through the rest of the season. I mean, they have Julian Lewis at quarterback. Maybe this will infuse some confidence in the team and infuse some effort, because I do think there's been some questionable effort at times. But I mean, for Colorado to make this change, to me, it signifies that Coach Prime is well aware that there's a problem. So I know everyone wants to beat up on him and be like, why didn't he make the change sooner? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you're not hiring Jerry Neuheisel to come in week 12 and be like, hey, Jerry, we appreciate, or we think you're great, like fix our season. Like, that's not going to happen, right? You're not going to teach players a new system this late in the season. So at this point, Coach Prime is essentially, I think he's doing Pat Shurmur a solid and being like, hey, I'm not going to fire you right now. We're going to go our separate ways in the offseason. That's how I imagine it's going to go. I think it's going to be like the Charles Kelly thing. I think it's going to be like the Coach Flea thing, where it's like, we're going to go separate ways. And right now, Pat Shurmur's, according to the report, was the quarterback's coach. So maybe he could help prepare Juju in that way. But I mean, the offense needed to change, and they changed it the best they could. And that's what I was asking for. I think that's what a lot of people were asking for. I don't think Coach Prime needed to hide it, because I do think that's where he sort of missed out on maybe getting some points with the fans and the boosters. Like, everyone's been calling for you to make a change, and you sort of shoot everyone down, and you're like, like we make changes behind the scenes. You guys don't need to know, or you guys won't know. You need to pay attention, stuff like that. Whereas, like, if he said, yeah, you know what, we're changing play callers this week. We're confident in Bartolone. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with Shurmur. I think a lot of people would have had a lot more confidence in this Colorado team. But the fact that everything's being hidden, I think, is rubbing people the wrong way. Now, Deion Sanders doesn't have to appease to the fans and appease to the boosters if he doesn't want to. That being said, when he's saying that there's a lot of negativity surrounding the team, and people are going at the players and him, and it's like, okay, you're kind of, I won't say you're allowing that to happen or causing that to happen, but you're certainly not preventing it, right? So I think Deion Sanders, he's going to make a change this offseason. I think at this point, Colorado knows that they're not playing for much, but we'll see how Bartolone does. He has a history of calling plays. Like I said, called it at Jackson State, I think in 2022, which was when Shador won the MVP. He also worked with Carson Strong at Nevada, who was a really good quarterback. He was back-to-back Mountain West Player of the Year. So Bartolone knows what he's doing. Is this offense really good enough? Is the offense good enough to show that? I don't know. Is the scheme that they're running good enough to show that? I don't know. We're going to find out. West Virginia is not necessarily one of the better teams in the Big 12. I can't say Colorado is either, but they're both on par for being near the bottom in just about every statistical category. So if you are Brett Bartolone, this is a moment to show you, like, prove yourself. Like, hey, I could do this. And if you're Julian Lewis, same thing. And anyone who's trying to make a statement for Colorado, this is your opportunity. Whether or not it'll work out, we will have to wait and see. When we come back, I'm going to talk about why I admire Deion Sanders for not letting players talk to the media, but I also kind of disagree with it. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Let's talk protecting the players. Deion Sanders hasn't let a player speak to the media since last week, or I guess after the Utah loss, right? And it's interesting. It's rare. I know Brian Howell of Buff Zone, he was doing his thing with Adam from 24/7. He was like, yeah, in all my years of covering Colorado, we've never not been allowed to talk to players. So that's interesting. But I do admire Coach Prime in a sense for this move, because, I mean, he was pretty honest, and he says he has like a fatherly view on his team. He has a fatherly expectation, or not expectation, but sort of like he wants to protect his guys, and you can't protect your guys if they're being thrown into the fire, I guess. And this is what he said, quote, I have a fatherly spirit and I have an overseer spirit. I'm trying to shield my guys from certain things that may harm them. I know the temperature of the room. I know if they can handle this at this time, right? And he's essentially saying that right now this team is not mentally in the right headspace to be peppered with questions, to be peppered with criticism. And I think that's the hard part, especially when you're at a program like Colorado. I remember in 2023, I think it was the Stanford game, actually. So Colorado goes up 28-0, 29-0 at half, and then Stanford comes back and wins, and I think in double overtime. And Deion Sanders was like, don't go on social media. Be prepared for everyone that's been gassing you up to turn on you, right? And it happens at every program. I'm not going to pretend that Colorado's special and Colorado fans are the only ones that go after players. I mean, like Ohio State's Ryan Day literally had a 24-hour security guard last year, and they won the championship, by the way. But because they lost to Michigan, he was like, I'm scared for my life out here, right? So college football, and I think this is probably every sport, every fan base, there's some toxic fans for sure. But if Deion Sanders knows that his players are taking the criticism to heart, they're not mentally ready for the scrutiny that they're facing. I understand wanting to protect them. That being said, I do think there's value in facing the music. I think there's value in say it was Jordan Seaton, right? Jordan Seaton is having a great individual season. And say he spoke to the media yesterday and it was like, how do you feel about Julian Lewis getting his first career start? Like hearing teammates praise Julian Lewis, I think would have been nice. Like talk about how far he's come from a 17-year-old who was skipping algebra 2, or not skipping algebra 2, but like skipping over senior year to now he's starting for a Big 12 team, hoping to lead them to a bowl game, right? I think it would have been nice to hear that. I think it would have been nice to hear from the player's perspective. So I think that's a missed opportunity. But the one thing that I think people forget in the media, in social media, is we're not obligated to anything, right? Whether that's responses, whether that's media availability, whether that's anything, right? Like Colorado has no media availability this week outside of what they had yesterday. And I think we're so accustomed to like, okay, Coach Prime talks on Tuesdays, then we see him again on Thursdays, or we talk to this coach on Wednesdays, right? And it's like, okay, we're not actually like, they don't have to do that. So I think right now Colorado's hitting the reset button. I think they know how rough this season has been. I think they know that like, hey, I mean, Deion Sanders himself said it, that he's not happy with how things are going. So it's not like they're behind the scenes going, wow, I'm shocked at this reaction. But I do think it would have been nice to hear from Juju, from Jordan Seaton, maybe hear from Coach Bartolone. Obviously, he didn't want to confirm the reports, but it would have been nice to hear that, right? And nice to hear like, hey, what went wrong? Or like maybe Pat Shurmur, you could pepper him with questions. I don't know. Like it's one of those things where, I mean, that'd probably be throwing him into the fire a little bit, but it's one of those things where when you are playing football or any sport really at a high level, at a high profile, there's going to be times where you have to sort of, I mean, the heat's going to be turned up on you and you just have to sort of take it. And I think Coach Prime is doing a good job, and he's not going to get applauded for this, but I think it's admirable. He's doing a good job of sort of shielding everyone from players to staff from all the criticism, right? Deion Sanders knows he's the biggest name. He knows he's the biggest brand. He knows people are going after this team so hard because of him. And so he's the one front and center taking it. That being said, I do think there's a missed opportunity here and there, but I mean, there's not really much a player can say at this point in the season where it's like, oh, wow, that's profound. Like that changes everything for this team. So you guys let me know. Do you really care that Coach Prime's not letting players talk to the media? From the media perspective, I get wanting to talk to players, but I also get from the coaches and the player perspective, like there's nothing beneficial for them. It's really a lose-lose situation, if you will. Like we don't get to hear from them. And if they do talk to the media, they're just going to sort of be under fire, if you will. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the College Football Playoff Committee may have actually shown the Big 12 some respect. I'm shocked. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Doer. Let me tell you about Doer. I'm currently wearing the shirt that they sent me. It's it is the most comfortable shirt I own. They're sending a pair of pants my way too, and I'm pumped for that. Got a pair of black jeans. I'm pretty excited. I'm going with the slim straight kind. style of black jean. I'm pretty pumped. This shirt, it's super light, super comfortable. And it also, I mean, I'm feeling myself a little bit, right? I feel like it hugs me in the right spots. The arms are looking good. The shoulders are looking good. So if you haven't checked out Doer, please make sure to do so. Doer has 5 times the stretch of a traditional denim. They're antibacterial, meaning your jeans stay fresher longer, so you can wear more and wash less. And they're made with Cool Max that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture. It keeps you cool and comfortable as temperature changes. So Doer are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. So simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. Trust me, once you try them, they'll be your go-to. And you can check out Doer in store over in Denver. It's at 2621 Laramie Street. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift for someone else. Mention my promo code LOCKEDONDenver in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopduer.com/LockedOnDenver for 15% off. That's shopduer.com/LockedOnDenver. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Let's just dive into it. For the first time since the Big 12, for the first time since the forming of the College Football Playoff Committee, I think the Big 12 got shown some respect. So Tuesday evening, they released their 12-team playoff rankings. Colorado didn't make it, unfortunately. No, obviously we knew that wasn't going to happen, but I was sort of curious what the perception of the Big 12 looked like. And I think the playoff committee answered our question in a big way of sort of how they view things right now and how they value certain teams. And so I'll run through the rankings real quick. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3, Bama 4, Georgia 5, Ole Miss 6, BYU 7, Texas Tech 8, Oregon 9, Notre Dame 10. Now, BYU and Texas Tech, obviously, they play this week, so it's one of them's getting a top 10 win, so one of them's moving up the rankings probably. And then Utah was at, I'll just continue with the reading. Texas at 11, Oklahoma at 12, Oklahoma at 12, Utah 13. So Utah's on the outside looking in, but they're in prime position. I mean, they're scheduled the rest of the way. Utah just has to win out and they're in, right? They have Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas. Very winnable stretch. I mean, the Big 12 is, I'll talk about this as a doomsday scenario a little bit later, but the Big 12 has a good chance to get 3 teams in. Another thing that I really noticed was Virginia was 14th. Virginia is the top-ranked ACC team, so they get in over Texas. And then Memphis wasn't ranked, but they were the highest-ranked conference champion or projected conference champion, so they also get in. So that sort of makes Virginia 11, Memphis 12. And I agree with most of the teams. Notre Dame over a certain couple teams, I'm like, really, what's the difference? Like, what has Notre Dame done? But at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. Things will play themselves out. Notre Dame has 4 more games to play, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it goes. But if you're the Big 12, you have to be pleased with this, because right now you have Texas Tech and BYU, which I think if you're the Big 12, you'd want Texas Tech to win, so BYU gets their first loss of the season, which is unfortunate. But BYU can beat TCU and Cincinnati and UCF and still get a rematch with Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. Winner of that game makes it in, or excuse me, both teams will make it in if it's both of them. And then if you're Utah, you just kind of wait, like you handle your business and you see what happens, right? Because Oklahoma plays Alabama, Texas has to play Georgia and Arkansas, which Arkansas is not a good team, but they're a frisky team. They're rivals of Texas, which I don't feel like a lot of people remember. And then you look at a team like Ole Miss, they have to play Florida, they have to play Mississippi State, right? A lot of these teams with, I'll call them favorable schedules down the stretch, feature a rivalry game. And although it's like, yeah, Ole Miss is ready to make their first ever playoff appearance, and they just have to beat Mississippi State, who's not that good. They just got their first SEC win in a couple of years. Rivalry games mean a whole lot of chaos can happen. So I think the Big 12 is in a prime position. Now, here's my doomsday scenario for the Big 12. Texas Tech loses this week against BYU, and they're sitting at 8-2, right? Texas Tech then loses another game to UCF or West Virginia because they're both frisky. So 3 losses would drop them out. BYU essentially, like, let's say TCU beats BYU, and all of a sudden BYU is 8-1, and TCU sort of surpasses, because TCU is sort of the wild card in all this, and Cincinnati as well. Right now, you have Texas Tech, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, Utah, ASU, TCU, all within striking distance of the Big 12 championship. So chaos would be a team like TCU making it over a team like Texas Tech or BYU, whatever. And all of a sudden, the top teams in the Big 12 sort of take a hit. And then another chaos sort of example would be Utah dropping to, I don't know, say Baylor. Baylor's a decent team. They're not the best team, but they're a decent team. Kansas State's a little bit better, and Kansas is all right. So there's a chance where the Big 12 can go from 3 teams in to 1 team in, and that would be my disaster scenario. So do me a favor. Comment, what do you think is more likely? The Big 12 gets Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah in, or only 1 Big 12 team gets into the college football playoff? Let me know what you guys think, because there's 4 more rankings until Selection Sunday, so a lot's going to change. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a change this week because Texas Tech and BYU play each other, but I think the Big 12 is in great positioning. They're obviously being shown some respect by the committee, which is nice and different. So we will just have to wait and see what happens next. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I will see you guys tomorrow. This has been Locked On Buffs.